Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So on today's video, I'm going to be showing you a relatively simple self-love candle spell. So over the past couple of months, I've been getting quite a lot of comments asking for me to do more spells and more rituals on this channel. I have done a couple in the past, but definitely more are on their way. And this is the first of a new wave of spells that I'm going to be showing you that I have either created and used myself, or I have created them, put them in my books of shadows in order to use at a later date. So as I get around to using all of these different spells that I've created, I'm going to be filming it so that you guys can see a step-by-step guide of how you can undertake the spell for yourself. Now this working is a rather flexible self-love candle spell. So because this is quite a general self-love candle spell, you can adapt it to suit your specific intention. It can be for yourself, or it could also be for someone else. And you can completely tailor it to what you need or what the individual that you're doing the spell for may need in their life. So if they need to see themselves as beautiful because they can't quite see it doesn't matter how much you tell them they can't quite see it, you can tailor the spell for that. If you need, or if the person you're doing the working for needs to have more confidence in themselves, they need to appreciate their achievements more, then you can tailor this working for that. It really is exceptionally flexible in how you carry it out. Now, I say this spell is relatively simple because it does still contain items. Now, these are the items that I have chosen to use for this particular working, but you can adapt it to use a pillar candle if that's easier for you to get hold of. Whatever you choose to add or take out of this working, you go with your gut. You can tweak it and adjust it to work for you. So don't feel as though you have to use every single thing that I'm going to be using here today. You really can adapt it to suit your specific requirements. So the items that I'm going to be using for this particular working are, to start off with, a mirror plate. Now these are relatively easy to find. I'm pretty certain that I got this one from a garden centre about 8 years ago. They are super duper useful, especially when doing workings like self-love. So when you undertake candle workings or rituals on a mirror, it is designed to reflect away negativity, negative energy, negative intention, or anyone tampering with your working. It's often used when you're doing negative workings against another practitioner or another person who has protections up. But it is also really good for working self-love spells, because the idea of a self-love spell is to remove all negativity, all doubt. So the point of this is that as you're casting the working, you're not getting any negativity coming in afterwards. So it helps to amplify the energy of that working because you are reflecting away any potential negativity surrounding your specific intention. It's also really good if you want it to be almost a shielded spell. So it's particularly good if you're doing long-term workings to have the working sitting on a mirror because it reflects any negativity that's aimed towards it. So that's the first item, is a mirror plate. The second is the main star of the show, and that is a heart-shaped candle. Now I know I haven't done a candle video on hearts yet, and that's because I'm doing them in a different shape in the future, and I'm going to wait till the new shape is available before I do the candle video. But I'm going to be using a heart-shaped candle. Now heart-shaped candles are good for all aspects of love. They are far less specific to the lovers candles and the marriage candles, and because of that, they can be really good for self-love and just general love workings. So for me, using a heart-shaped candle for this particular working makes a lot of sense. I also have pink rose buds. Now these are the only herb that I'm going to be using in this working. I'm going really simplistic on this one because I don't want it to be too intense. So pink rosebuds are really good for self-love, and that's really what I'm going for today. It's not romantic love, it's not passionate love or long-term love or new love. Instead, it's about learning to love yourself. So I'm using pink rosebuds for that. They're also really good for fertility workings, friendship workings, but mainly self-love. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I'm not going to be using many. I think I'm going to be using just 3 rosebuds in this working, so you definitely don't need that many. I then have my trusty lighter. Some practitioners say that you can only ever light your candles with matches, but I am lazy and I have a lighter, so I'm going to be using a lighter today. I personally work on the idea that whatever you have around, whatever you have access to, you can use. I've even known of practitioners who light their candles on a gas stove because it's all they've got, and if it works for them, then it works for them. So next I have some toothpicks. These are to inscribe the candle. Now there are two ways of going about doing this working, which I will get to in a bit. But if you don't want to use toothpicks and carve into the candle, you're going to need a pen and a piece of paper. I then have some oil. Now picking this up is rather tricky, but I have my love oil. Now this is the oil that I make myself. I bottle it up and sell it in the store, so I'm just going to be using it out of this giant container because it's easier than trying to bottle a tiny bit up just for this video. But this is my love oil. You can make this yourself. There are loads of recipes online. You can also find it from loads of different stockists, basically anywhere, honestly. Your local Botanica, a cult store, or simply online will definitely have it. And if you want to just use olive oil and charge it with your intention, you can do that as well. So you can really adapt it to suit what you have. And then I also have some kitchen roll because I get oil everywhere. So I always like having this around so I don't get myself all messy in the process. So I just want to say that with any working that I'm going to be showing you on this channel, you can adapt it to suit what you have. To me, magic isn't about having all of these individual items and you have to have this and you have to have that. We work with what we have. So if you don't have a heart-shaped candle or you don't want to get one, you can substitute it for simply a pillar candle, ideally in something like red or pink. Preferably pink would be ideal, and then you can still inscribe the candle that way if that's something you are interested in. Now the candle that I have today is kind of unusual. It is pink inside and it's been dipped in red, so that's why I'm using this particular candle if anyone's interested, because I know that some of you might be like, why are you using red for self-love? I promise it's pink inside. We did a bit of an experiment with the candles where we wanted to see if we could dip them in a different colour to see how they burned, and this is one of those ones. So it is red on the outside, pink in the middle, so hopefully we get to see that when it's burning. So you can really adapt this to what you have around. If you don't have any herbs, you don't have to use the herbs. If you don't have the mirror plate, you can just use a standard plate. If you don't have a heart-shaped candle, you can just use a standard dinner candle or taper candle. If you don't have any fancy oil, you can just use charged olive oil. You really can work with what you have, and that's what I would say with anyone. If you get a spell book and you're reading all of the spells in there, adapt them to suit your specific requirements, what you have in, what you don't have in, what you want to use, what you don't. You don't need to just take a spell and just use it as is. So for this particular working, I'm going to have to move you because you're in a way too far away location to see exactly what I'm doing. So you're probably not going to see me for the rest of this video, but I hope you guys enjoy the spell and I hope that it is relatively easy to follow. Hello, hello. So you're now in a very, very different angle, but I have everything set up in front of me. I have the mirror, the pink rosebuds, I have the heart candle, my lighter, and my oil, and then over here, hidden away, are my toothpicks. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cleanse the candle of energy. Now this is particularly important if you aren't the one that makes the candles. So for me, I make all of these candles, so I know exactly who's touched them. Me. So for me, it's not so much of an issue having to cleanse my own candles before a ritual. But if you're getting your candles from a different location, whether that be a Botanica, an occult shop online, or someone else you know is making them, then it's a really good idea to cleanse them before you start. Now this doesn't have to be smoke cleansing, this can be cleansing with energy, with sound, whatever it is that you feel like using. Often when I cleanse candles, I don't actually cleanse them with smoke, but I'll actually energy cleanse them. So just as you would charge an item with your energy, you can also remove energy from an item. So you can almost leave it as a blank canvas. So once your candle is charged, the first thing you're going to want to do is inscribe it with your intention as well as add your energy into it. So I've had a lot of people asking me to do a full video on what intention is. And honestly, I don't think there's much point in doing a full video on it because I can essentially explain intention within 30 seconds. Intention is your desired outcome for a spell. It is what you want to achieve. So in this particular working, if you want to help someone see all the goodness in them, to see how beautiful they are inside and out, that is your intention. It's what you want to achieve. So I'm not going to be doing a full video on intention, but that gives you a little bit of an idea as to what intention is. And so you can inscribe your intention into a candle, or you can write your intention on a petition. So those are the two potential options for this working. If you don't want to carve into the candle itself, you can go ahead and write a petition and then place the petition underneath the mirror, because you're not going to want to place it underneath the candle, because that means when you're burning the candle, you will burn the petition. So instead, if you're going to write a petition, write it, place it underneath the mirror, and then we can place the candle on top and you connect it all together that way. But for me, I'm not going to be using a petition because I want there to be very, very few spell remains once I'm finished. So what I am going to do is take one of my toothpicks and I am going to inscribe into the candle what I want the candle to achieve. Now, if you're aiming this at a specific person that's not yourself, it's a good idea to include full name, date of birth, and then your intention, so you know that the candle is connecting to the right person. If you're doing it for yourself, this isn't so much of an issue and you can skip this bit out. But I would say that as you're writing it, make sure that you are doing it with intention. You're putting your energy into it. You are visualizing what you want to achieve. You know the outcome that you're aiming for, and you're putting that into your candle as energy while you are inscribing your intention. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I will see you in a minute. So once you've inscribed, I'm not sure if you can see it there, your intention, what you want to achieve from this working on the candle, you can then sign it. I generally sign mine 3 times, as 3 for me is a number of manifestation. You'll see me use the number 3 a lot in my rituals. So I'm going to turn my candle so it's 90 degrees clockwise, and then I'm going to sign it 3 times. So once you've signed it, if you want to, you'll now have a carved candle. You can then add any symbols or sigils that work with your desired intention. So if you've created a sigil for self-love, you can carve that onto the candle. If you want to use the rune for love, you can use that as well. If you just have any symbols that you want to add, any hearts, any kisses, anything that will help connect the candle to your desired intention, you can go ahead and do that. You can really play around with it. You can do it down the sides, you can do it on the back. There's so many different things you can do with this. Now, if you ran out of room for your intention on one side, you can write it on the other as well to almost double it up. Or you can write the same intention on both sides to almost duplicate that energy to really drive home what you want to achieve. So once you've written everything and you've carved in everything you want to carve in, I'm keeping mine really, really simple with just my intention and my signatures. You're then going to want to charge it with your energy. So you'll want to focus on your intention, attach that intention to the energy that you are building up, and then charge your candle with it. So I'm going to do that really quick now, and then I will come back to the next step. Okay, so we now have one carved and one charged candle. Now what's next? Well, I typically move on to oil. So oil for me is one of my go-to things in candle workings. I find it to be so useful. This is the oil that I am going to be using today. You can see all of the herbs that I put into my charged oils sitting at the bottom there, and if I were to shake it up, you can see them all floating around. I absolutely love making herbal oils. This one doesn't have any essential oils in it. This is just the raw herbal oil. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of this oil on my fingers, I'm going to charge it with what I want it to achieve, and then I'm going to dress the candle from the top to the bottom because we want to draw that energy in down into the working. So I'm going to get a little bit of that oil on my fingers. You really don't need very much at all. I'm going to charge it with my energy. And then you're going to want to dress the candle from top to bottom to draw in that energy. And then I'm going to wipe my hands because I get this oil everywhere. Okay, so I've wiped my hands at least reasonably clean of the oil. Now my next job is going to be to actually adhere this candle onto the mirror, because everything from this point on is simply the herbs and then the energy added into the working. So I don't really need to be picking up and messing with the candle any more than I already have, so it's time to stick it to the glass. Now the reason I like to do this is so that if anyone or any animal, for instance, were to bump into the table, the lit candle won't just fall over. It will be stuck to the glass of the mirror. And that makes a freestanding candle like this a lot safer than it just being freestanding. So if you don't want to stick it onto a spike holder, because I don't particularly like those, I find that they actually fracture the bottom of the candle. I always like to stick my candles down onto whatever surface I'm using, whether that's a plate, a tray, or a mirror like this. So I'm going to take my trusty lighter. I'm going to heat up the bottom of the candle so that it begins to melt and drip before I stick the heart-shaped candle back down onto the mirror. Now, some people don't like doing this either. They believe that the soot that comes off the flame and the lighter or the match will actually taint the candle working because it goes black at the bottom. But personally, I believe that safety should be your first priority, especially when it comes to candle spells. I would always suggest that candle and fire safety is the #1 priority above everything else. And because of that, I don't really mind about the soot. I will accept it. I'd rather that this candle be safe and secure. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is taking 3 pink rose buds. I'm not sure if it's going to focus on these, but they are just really small little dainty rose buds. I particularly like rose buds for self-love workings just because they have very gentle, very comforting energy, and they tend to be really, really nice for this kind of working. Now I am going to be taking 3 because for me 3 is a number of manifestation. It's also a number that I have basically been obsessed with since I was a child. So 3 is a power number for me more than anything else. So I'm going to be charging these with my energy, and then I will be dotting them around the candle, far enough away from the candle that they won't catch a light, but close enough that they add their nice, gentle energy into the working. So at this point, for me, this working is very simple, it's very dainty, but it's very focused. So you have the petition actually written into the candle, no extra papers, no requirement for any additional things. It's very simple, it's all contained within the candle. You've got the rosebuds which help to focus that loving, appreciative energy onto the intention of the candle. They're directing the energy towards the candle. And then as I light the candle, I'm going to say some words of intention over it, charge it with some extra intention before I light it, and then I'm just going to let it burn down. And that is about as simple as a figural candle ritual can really get. Now you can add more things on if you wanted to, so you could add some self-love sachet powder over the candle, for instance, to help magnify that energy even further. At the same time, you could be burning some self-love incense. You could have more candles dotted around the plate, specifically coloured to direct your specific intention into the working. So for instance, if it was to appreciate yourself more and to have more self-confidence, you could then use some paler pinks and an orange to help attract in that self-love and confidence. But this to me is a very simple, very pure kind of working. It's not overcomplicated, it doesn't require a million different ingredients, and it will do the same job as long as your energy is focused and your intention is targeted enough. So next thing for me, I'm going to be charging this entire working with my intention and energy, and then I'm going to go about lighting the candle. I'm not sure if anyone else's hands do this, but do your hands go bright red when you're doing workings? My hands are boiling and like bright red. But anyway, this working is now ready to be lit. So I'm going to move all of this back to where it is going to live normally, because this table is my manifestation altar that lives in my living room. So I'm going to go ahead and move that back, and then I'm going to light this candle so you can see what it looks like when it's burning. Okay, so this is the table in its normal location. Usually there's a lot more on the table, but for this particular video, this is all that's going to be on the table. So as you can see, more from this angle probably, where I've inscribed the candle, but also the little soot where I've stuck the candle to the mirror with the lighter. I'm personally not too fussed by this, but some people might be. Now once you've done your working and you've charged it, you can then take it in a couple of different ways. You can either charge the candle every day or so for a week before you light the candle. You can choose to light the candle on a specific day of importance. So for me, it is now a Friday, and I am lighting this candle on a Friday because Friday is the day of love, of self-love, but also of romantic love. So it's the ideal day to be lighting the candle. So if you can light it on a Friday, that would be absolutely ideal. And if you want to go off moon phases, and lighting it on a waxing moon where everything is being amplified is really good. So a Friday waxing moon is really, really ideal. So I'm going to go ahead and light this candle. Now you can say words of intention as you're lighting it. I am personally just going to do that inside my own head, mainly because this candle is particularly personal to me. And then let's watch it burn, because I love seeing these figural candles melt. Now, if you're going to be doing candle spells, please make sure that you don't leave burning candles unattended. Always take care when doing candle spells, because you never quite know how they're going to respond. Especially with the added energy that goes into a spell, you might simply find that it will act completely differently. The flame will grow massive, or it'll shrink really small. The wax will pour off one side, so just please always be careful. And if you need to, snuff the candle out and come back another day and continue burning it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that spell walkthrough. I hope that it's useful. I know a lot of people have been after a self-love working, and this one is kind of ideal because it's so customizable and you can really tailor it to the intention that you want to manifest. Now there is a couple of things that I do want to say just at the end, and that is how to dispose of the spell remains, or what you can do after the working. So if you want to dispose of the remains, you can bury them in the front garden if you want to attract something in. So if it's something new you want to bring in. You can bury the remains in the back garden if it's something you're trying to amplify. Now this can be done in the ground or in a pot, and it's especially good if you're using beeswax because it is natural instead of the synthetic paraffin wax. You can take any remains and add them into a sachet and continue it as a pouch sachet working. This is particularly good if you do have a petition involved instead of just carving the candle. If you actually wrote out a petition, this is fantastic because then you can add it all into the bag and then use the oil to add extra energy to it every week or so to keep that spell working. Now, if you want to completely dispose of the remains without burying them or anything else, I would cleanse them and then put them in a bin. I wouldn't put them just straight in the bin. I definitely make sure to try to cleanse them first. Now, if you want to continue the working on but don't necessarily want all of the remains, you can actually take the rose buds that are used and you can grind them up and make a powder. You can grind them up and make incense with them. You can use them in other workings for self-love. You can carry them around in a sachet or in a necklace to continue the energy of that working on. And you can also add them into ritual baths. So if you want to kind of have a self-love ritual bath, you can actually add these rosebuds that are already charged with that energy into the bath to kind of amplify the energy of that ritual bath that you're doing. So there's lots and lots that you can do with this spell once it's finished, and it is so versatile that you can really tweak it and alter it to suit your requirements. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found the spell useful. If you did, feel free to give it a like. It really means so much to me. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or video ideas, feel free to post a comment down in the comment section. And if you enjoy the magical content on this video or in this channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I post new magical content every Wednesday and every Saturday at 6 p.m. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you have a marvelous magical day. Bye!